Welcome, welcome. It is time for another weekly project update down here at St. Simon's Elementary School. All right, starting things off as always, I've got a site plan in front of me to give reference to where I'm at and to serve as a reminder to what we're doing on campus. So currently we are renovating these 7 classrooms and this cafeteria here to support the facilities that we've already established on campus, which are a kitchen, admin building, 2-story classrooms, and a gymnasium. But one thing that I haven't talked about in my videos yet is that in conjunction with renovating these classrooms, we're also going to finish out the campus. We're going to do little things like paving, striping, and then also giving them a walking track and sidewalks to connect the buildings throughout the campus. So if I look up over there, you can see the gymnasium that we built. Here are the 2-story classrooms. Behind me are the classrooms that we're renovating. And then over here is that admin building. And what we've got coming in the next few days to keep our site contractor busy, he's going to go ahead and form up these sidewalks that will serve between the footers that will have an aluminum canopy installed. That aluminum canopy is going to look just like the one that we have here. And one thing that's kind of interesting about that canopy is we had to make sure that was in place before we turned over these buildings and took what we're working on now, so that students had a way to access the administration building from their 2-story classrooms. In addition to working on forming up these sidewalks that gets us that much further along down the road, our site contractor is also going to go ahead and pour these footings for our bell tower. Our bell tower is a flare of historic preservation on this campus. There was previously a bell from the original building, and we're going to construct a new steel structure that will have that bell installed right here, and then around it we'll have walkway surfaces, and then out here that walkway track. So that's what's going on the inside of the site. Let's walk up and check on how our access road's coming along that we talked about last week. All right, walking away from the walking track that we were just talking about out into our access road, away from our gymnasium, and then towards our kitchen, we picked back up on our access road that we were working on last week. It looks a little different now because we've got our curbs placed. We don't quite have our GAB in, and you can see that I've got this sprinkler here that is going over all of the soil on this road. And you might ask yourself, what in the world is that for? I come from Augusta, Georgia. If you saw me putting water on soil, it'd be water on Georgia red clay, and you'd call me crazy. But down here at the beach, in order to get compaction whenever you have this hot, dry summer weather, you actually have to add water back into the soil in order to get that compaction. Otherwise, it's very loose dirt. Think of whenever you're building a sandcastle at the beach, you make sure to go down and get some water. Otherwise, you turn your bucket upside down and that sandcastle doesn't have any structure. We're going to keep this water going on over here overnight. We'll actually move this sprinkler up a little bit to keep getting that little bit of sand there, in preparation for us to take that roller and compact it, get a proof roll whenever we get our second load of GAB, which is that material over there in the morning. That's our access road. The big milestone with this is making sure that we have it in by Monday in order for the school staff to start taking food out from the back of the house, which is the kitchen over there, and then upwards and to the gymnasium for it to be distributed. They're doing that to help us out so that we get 2 more weeks to work inside the cafeteria doing our renovations instead of waiting until school gets out at the end of May. Over here at the teacher workroom, you can see that we got a little bit of our masonry infill done. We didn't quite get this section. We ran out of time and we did not want to leave a mess while we were working on this access road. We've got plenty of time over the summer to come back and do our masonry infill here, as well as at that door there. This, at the end of the day, is not a finished product. You can see these little ties where the shadows are. Those are for pintles to attach to for our brick veneer. We'll also get an air barrier behind that. And then at the top of our brick veneer right here, we're gonna get an EFIS finish. So that's what's going on for our access road and our teacher workroom station. Let's walk around and see what's going on in our classrooms. Onto the front of the house, I am standing in front of our classroom renovations. Last week we talked about getting our rough carpentry in for our windows. We've since completed that. On Monday, our storefront subcontractor came out and did their field measurements. And that's great because that releases our windows in production, which is a long lead item. It's going to be at least 5 weeks before we start seeing those windows come into play. Getting to the inside of the building, though, we have continued with our overhead activities. We've also continued forward with our floors that we talked about and mitigating levelness issues. You can see we haven't done much in our corridors, but if you hop over here to a typical classroom, we have gotten a lot done. Starting things off, you can see that we've got our makeup air, which is outside air, coming in to our buildings. That duct's been installed and insulated. And then likewise, we've gotten in our in-wall blocking. So this is a great example of what an educational wall will look like in the classroom. Students will look towards this elevation, and in the middle, there will be a smart board, and then on each side will be a marker board. Over here, we've got a window. You can see some other blocking in wall. That's for cubbies. Those cubbies will come up to this line right here, and then we'll have just a little bit of an elevation between the bottom of our windowsill and the top of cubby. Speaking of windows, we also have our window trim mock-up set in place for our architect to review on site with us tomorrow. You can see that we've got this mullion that will wrap. This is, again, a mock-up. It's very rough. We've got a windowsill and a bottom sill plate, and then up at the top, we've got that mullion, again, marked up with trim and a trim valance. Hopefully he blesses that and we're good to go. Over here at our wet walls, you can see that we've got our blocking for our split system that will be installed up on top of our bulkheads here. And then we've got our blocking in wall for cabinets. We also have our lighting made up, or roughed in here. These will go to under cabinet lights. You can especially see that here where you're washing your hands or something and you've got a light above you to see the dirt on your hands. Now, problems. One of the problems that we have really highlighted here, which is more of a design flair, is that our architect wants to keep this brick wall in place, as opposed to all the other brick walls in the room, except for the wet wall that they get furred. Okay, this wall does not, at present, does not get metal studs. And that creates a couple issues for us. First is that this brick is just ugly. It was laid in 1943. It's been through almost a decade of life. And you can see that because this school was built in a hurry for World War II soldiers, that it is imperfect. And the problem with these levelness imperfections is that we've got visual display boards, much like the tack board that was previously installed, that go onto this wall, and that is going to result in us having something like this, where you try and put a level surface onto an unlevel wall, and then you've got an ugly caulk detail as a result to conceal it. In addition to that, you can also see that throughout the years, this has been coated with various types of paint. And that's especially seen here, where oil-based paint was used and then latex on top of it, and you can peel back that paint and it chips right off. There's no way that even with block filler and a new coat of paint that this wall will look really, really good. And we're concerned with that because at the end of the day, we want this school to look really, really good. So what we have mentioned to our architect is, hey, these various concerns really are a call for you to fur this wall out. It's going to give you a multitude of benefits. It's going to give you a nice smooth surface for your visual display boards to be installed on. And in addition to that, where we've got conduits on this wall that would otherwise be exposed, we can conceal them within that wall for you. And you still get the historic preservation of that brick veneer at your wet walls, at your closets. So it's one of the issues that we're working through. Looking into the next couple weeks, one thing that we do not have installed in our classrooms right now is our water lines that will serve sinks. So you can see that we've got our waste piping in over here, which is that pipe, but we don't have the water supply lines to serve our faucet. Our plumber's going to come in at the tail end of the week and run those. And then likewise, fire sprinkler piping. We don't have any overhead fire sprinkler lines yet. So Brunswick Sprinkler will come in next week and get all of those drops established for us. Then we're going to be looking at things like overhead inspections, which will allow for us to be thinking of ceiling grid. Also looking into the future, not so much at the classrooms, but our temporary walls will be able to come down. Again, the school is so kind to give us the cafeteria that is beyond this wall 2 weeks earlier, and that is going to greatly accelerate our schedule. That's going to allow for our abatement contractor to come in, do general demolition, start his abatement, and then we can do the processes that we've talked about on this portion of the building, on the remainder, and then it's a sprint to the finish to get done in summer. That's what's going on in St. Simons. I hope you guys are liking this video. I'm hearing pretty good feedback, so I'm going to keep it up. If you got any tips on how I can make them better, feel free to let me know. I'd love to hear some feedback.